My name's Angus MacLeod, and today we're going to talk about emotional intelligence. Interesting subject, and one in which perhaps the most important aspect is very rarely discussed. It's very rarely brought out, and I'd like to do that for you today. The model you'll know, and we'll show you on the screen now what we're talking about. We'll start in the top left quadrant, and if you look up and down, you'll see there's a row downwards on the left which is about self. And then you'll see a row along the top which is about awareness. So if you cross those together, you get self and awareness, self-awareness. That's the top left quadrant in the model. Now below that, as a row, you've got the management dimension as well. So that's the bottom left hand side. So how that works is if you've got some self-awareness about something, somebody says, oh, your handshake is very sort of sticky and weak or whatever. You have a choice, and that's the boundary between awareness and action or management. Now when you take that choice, you can experiment and test whether changing your handshake, changing some other aspect that you've learned, see how that works in the world, whether it can be incorporated holistically into the way that you live and work, and if it works you move on and have learned. So that's how we move from awareness to management with ourselves. Now the other half of the model on the right hand side has to do with others. So the top right hand side, if you look at that, you've got others, and then on the top, on the row, you've got awareness. So it's about your awareness of others, my awareness of others. And how do we do that, and what do we learn? Now this is a life journey normally. It's about us conducting our lives, and over the course of our lives, getting some feedback, having some learning, having some tough times, things that run-ins with other people, arguments, conflicts and so forth, and we begin to learn a little bit about other people. Firstly, we notice that they're a lot different from one another, and that's a great learning, but we also need to learn a lot more. Now this learning can take a whole lifetime, it invariably does and carries on, but can we accelerate it? And the fact is we can. Now how do we do that? And this is where so much that's said about emotional intelligence is a little weak, because the fast route to improving the rate at which you can increase your emotional intelligence is to seek specific feedback. Now that's very specific feedback, so that means not sort of generalist sort of questions about, well, how did I do? Because people are just going to say, oh yeah, it was fine, it's fine, yeah, no problem. That's not much good to us. What we want is to get specific feedback. So we say, oh, when I was speaking with you, Jennifer, I wasn't sure you were totally happy when I was discussing the subject of XYZ. Was there one thing, Jennifer, that I could have done better to make that a more enjoyable and useful experience for you? So, one thing in the mind, it starts in Jennifer's mind the possibility that, oh, maybe there is one thing. That's the way the mind works. We introduce stuff to it, and it assumes for a moment that there is something, rather than blanking it out. We don't have that ability to erase stuff unless we're drunk or on drugs or something, or asleep. So the mind takes that in, and Jennifer will come up with something very, very specific. You know, you could have done that, or you could have been less this or more of that. And again, as with the dimension of self, with awareness and management, now we can use that feedback to going from left to right in the top quadrant, and to test that, in this case with Jennifer, and then maybe to learn something about our awareness around others, seeking feedback, testing things on other people as well, and therefore growing faster as individuals in terms of our emotional intelligence. Now when you know a bit more about how other people work, and specific to each individual, there'll be general things which sort of work for most of the people most of the time, and then there'll be specific things which only work for a few people some of the time. So we want to use these new abilities to start understanding others, and that understanding and practice and testing of that understanding leads us to be able to manage others better. Now manage, if you remember, there's the bottom row, put the right hand column and the bottom row together, you have managing others. And when we get better and better at that, then we have a lot more impact. And most of us in some aspect of our lives, whether it's social, whether it's in the family, whether it's at work, have a need to harness other people, to work, if you like, as teams. And this is where the model does say very clearly, this is about impact, this is about the management of others. And the whole model really about the management of ourselves, the choices we take, the way we test, the way we move on, the way we test our feedback from others and apply it and reapply it, when we carry on doing that, then we can impact on other people in a great way. That's how to move on with emotional intelligence and to grow it without having to live a great long time in order to do it. You can accelerate it and you can do it right now. Thanks for listening.